It's time now for the best hour in MMA and combat sports, the Boomtown Pod. Join your hosts Andrew Kahn and Cole Smith as they break down the latest cards, the biggest news, and so much more. Now it's time for the Boomtown Pod.
That is right. It is time for the Boomtown Pod. It is all things MMA. It is, of course, your host, Andrew Kahn, our co-host, Cole Sandman Smith, back in the building after a little hiatus. He's back. We're happy to have you back, brother. How you been?
Good. Really good. Just been super busy. Just been out, gone. I think I've seen every city in Alberta, Saskatchewan. Just like traveling lots, competing lots. We got our guys fighting lots, so it's good.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Cole does run his own boxing academy, Sandman Boxing System, as you see in the background. Also a freak in the ring as well. And I'm not going to get into it because I'm going to let him describe it. But you took on a fucking mammoth. So tell me how that went.
Yeah, I mean, so one of our guys fights at super heavyweight, which is just above 200. Anything above 200 in boxing is super heavyweight. And he got sick, and it was for a belt. It was for a title. So I said I would step in, but I wouldn't get sanctioned because I was too small. So I was around 190, and the opponent was 265. So I told them, just tell them I'm 215, and I'll be 215 on weigh-in. And it was the night before. So I put on, I weighed in at 213. I put on 22 pounds in 24 hours. I hit Fuddruckers hard.
I was going to say, what the hell did you eat?
Yeah, so I went in, just fattened up, and I ended up winning. So I got the belt.
There it is.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's pretty sweet.
It was wild. It was like it just happened super fast. The guy was 6'7", 265 pounds. I'm like, for those who don't know me, I'm 5'10" on a good day. So there's a lot of body shots.
No, that is for sure. I was gonna say, I'm sure you probably just torqued down, went down, and just gone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations, man. That's awesome. That's a sweet way to introduce ourselves, especially today. Nonetheless, of course, we want to thank all of our sponsors. You can see them ticking down below. The Saskatchewan Podcast Network, Blue Collar Media Group, Stellar Gear, Sandman Boxing System out in Saskatoon, and Connexus Credit Union. This first segment is The Week That Was, and it is, of course, sponsored by the Saskatchewan Podcast Network and Blue Collar Media Group, the people back at the motherships. Thank you so much for the support through all of this year. It's crazy. This is 2 years now, Cole. Celebrated the 2-year anniversary of the Boomtown Pod not too long ago, which is insane. He was there for episode, I think it was like 3 or 4 that you were on.
Yeah, it's actually really, man, congrats, Andrew, because I was like, I remember when it was just an idea you were throwing around, chatting to me and even my wife, because she kind of helped you with that original logo.
The very first logo.
And, so it was just like an idea, and then it happened, and then to see what it's become, man, is well, yeah, congrats. It's huge.
Awesome. It's absolutely awesome.
And it's awesome to be a part of it now.
Yeah,
100%.
man. I was literally just going to say, having you aboard, man, full time now is absolutely amazing, because the one thing that's always missed on the show has been a co-host. So I can talk about MMA for hours and combat sports for hours on end, as we both know and both have drunkenly done before. But never, ever was I able to have a platform doing it sober, which is awesome. And of course, last year, if anybody knows me, I kicked the curve and focused a lot on this. So that really took a lot of energy and effort. And anyways, what took a lot of energy and effort was Rob Font's face against Chito Vera. Wow, what an absolute beatdown. UFC Fight Night took place this last weekend. Rob Font going against Chito Vera. Obviously, Chito Vera has been on this incredible run as of late. Kind of reserved and rejuvenated his career, which has been great. Rob Font also on a tear of sorts, beating the likes of guys like Jose Aldo and such on the way. So that's been pretty incredible. Rob Font obviously out in Boston. Chito Vera training out. I think he's in LA now, which is awesome. But man, the resurgence of Chito Vera and this complete fighter that we're seeing in front of our eyes, man, it's insane how far he's come.
Yeah. That fight was amazing. I thought it was like super close. I don't know what we haven't really talked about it, Andrew, but who did you have winning at the end of that?
When I first watched it, I agreed with the decision. Then I rewatched it, and I kind of had a 49-48. I thought it was a lot closer than 49-47 or even the 49-46 that we heard on the announcements. But again, as we've talked about so many times on this podcast, what happens is you let it go into the hands of the officials and the judges. Some of these judges are just part of commissions. They really don't know what's going on. So, I mean, I had it 49-48. I did have Chito winning it. I thought it was a lot closer than I thought the props kind of gave and what the pros were saying. But Rob Font, he took a lot of damage. And I think that was the big thing in this fight is that he wore a lot of counter punches. Right. I mean, he was the faster of the fighters. Chito's very experienced. I think he knows how to counter really well. And you can see that in this full display because of the way his face looked at the end of the fight. I mean, obviously, Rob Font looked like the way more damaged fighter. And again, when you're an official and you're seeing this, you kind of go by the aspect of, hey, this guy's getting beaten up. I mean, there's a lot of damage, and that's how they kind of critique things, I think, from a standpoint from guys who really don't know how, officiating works. But nonetheless, I did see it 49-48. I think they got it right. Chito Vera is obviously, like I said, honest, fighting everybody, it seems, these days. I don't know who the hell he faces up next. I know that he talked about fighting Sean O'Malley next, running that back because everybody says that win was a fluke, which yes and no, I guess, because of the particulars and what happened in that fight with, of course, the leg kick, the check kick, and Sean O'Malley. I think it was essentially his ACL had no movement and he was just torqued and his calf was completely screwed. So, I mean, I'm cool with it. If Sean O'Malley gets through his next test, which we'll talk about in a while, if he gets through his next test, I don't mind that matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that matchup makes sense. At first I thought it was a fluke too, but then when you were kind of explaining to me, and then that, like the calf kick kind of came in right at that time, and then it became a little bit more popular. I don't think it's as much of a fluke as I did when I first watched it. I think it was a fair, I think he was doing that on purpose, and you're actually the one who pointed that out to me. So I went back and kind of watched it, and I was like, yeah, I feel like he was doing that. Yeah. So then, that's kind of like right at the point when that calf kick was everyone started using it, right? Yeah, so then, and it was kind of just not seen yet, really, that effectively. So,
and now everybody's using it. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Watch a fight where a guy's not throwing a calf kick. It's like the most talked about thing when the commentators are talking in fights. They're like, that guy threw a leg kick. Oh, nope, check. Nope, he's going for a calf kick. And I totally understand it. We saw it against Anthony Smith too, against Jim Crute, where Smith landed it perfectly and Crute was just completely unable to get functionality back into his leg. And it sucks because that was going to be a great fight. But hey, I mean, that's what when you step into this, there's holes to everybody's game, and Smith exposed him. Vera exposed O'Malley, being the shorter fighter against a taller guy. Leg base, man, right? I mean, that he structured that out absolutely perfectly. And I love that you said that. I caught it. But I just, when I watched it, I just thought he was targeting it a lot. And I kind of was trying to figure out what was going on. But nonetheless, congratulations to Chito Vera. I'm cool with him running it back. Rob Font will obviously get another top 10 fight very, very quickly. It's just a matter of time of who they want to put in there. He's a great fighter, man. Really, really enjoy him. Bellator 277. This card was, as the kids say, fucking weird and bananas. All at the same time, man. Patricio Pitbull taking on AJ McKee, the undefeated at the time AJ McKee. And Pitbull got back what he thought was stolen from him. And he is now the champ in Bellator. I honestly, I'm having a hard time with this one, man. I honestly thought AJ McKee was a busier fighter. I thought he did more to win the fight. Again, don't let the fight go in the judges' hands. And 99.9% of the time, if you're the champion and it goes to a decision, that decision usually means championship victory. And let's face it, this is the 0.101% that has not happened. And obviously, AJ McKee losing that, not only his title, the undefeated streak as well, and Patricio Pitbull retaining. What do you think, or regaining, sorry. What do you think about this, Cole?
I mean, yeah, I thought McKee won. But I mean, like, if you need to, like, fall asleep, go watch that fight. You know,
yeah, it was great.
It wasn't great. The whole card was awesome, but and then that fight was like every other fight on that main card was on. It was great, and in that card they just looked at each other for 5 rounds, and McKee just did a little bit more. I agree with you.
That's 1,000% the truth. I thought he did enough to win the fight. It was a boring fight, and it sucks because there was so much hype and animosity going into this fight. I mean, AJ McKee beating Pitbull, first and foremost, was huge on a lot of people's spectrum. And then AJ McKee, you know, what can you do? Because there's been talk about, hey, he might leave and uproot over to the UFC. There's been tons of talk about his contract and all this other stuff. And it's like Bellator has this superstar on their hands. And Pitbull, I'm not taking away from Pitbull. Pitbull was their superstar for a very long time, too, back in the title fold, holding that championship now. So it's kind of interesting to see how this McKee situation plays out, because I think if AJ would have won, I honestly think no matter what, he would probably have left to the UFC. I know that sounds absolutely bananas and people are going to probably ridicule me for that, but I do think that's what would happen in this situation.
I agree. I think he wants I think he knows how, like, he recognizes how good he is. And
yeah.
He's going to be in the UFC, I think, very soon. In the next 2 years, he'll definitely be there. He wants to challenge himself. He's freaking amazing. He's awesome to watch. So, yeah, definitely.
I think he learned in that last fight with Pitbull that he asserted a lot of energy and quick. And I think in later rounds, you could kind of tell that McKee's body wasn't holding up the way it wanted it to. And in this fight, I think that's why he was so reserved and why it was such as we quoted, a boring fight. I think it was just that he really took his time. He was calculated this time around. He wasn't throwing a ton of punches. He wasn't looking for finishes right off the get-go, kind of what he did in that first fight. So, I mean, I agree with you. I think the best move for him in his career is to move over to the UFC. And I'm not saying that just strictly because I think it's, you know, that much better. I mean, if you watch Bellator 277 like we did, that's on par with being as good as a UFC card, in my opinion. And the fights were equally as entertaining, if not more exciting, because that card started off with a knockout and then another knockout, and then it just continued. It was nuts. But yeah, this one was a sleeper, and Pitbull's going to run that division, I think, for a while.
And I mean, like, the trilogy, you know?
Yeah, we'll see it. We'll see it. I think we'll see the trilogy fight, and even if he wins, if McKee does pull it off, I think he's still gone. I really do, and it's probably within a year or two. I think he does the Michael Chandler thing where you can get certainly as big as you can and then jump to a rival company to face their toughest competition, which we'll jump into later on with Michael Chandler because we all know he's taking a huge fight this weekend. Also on Bellator 277, this one was disappointing because I was so excited for my guy, Corey Anderson. All the media has been shitting on this guy for years. He's a boring fighter, this and that. He was on a winning streak in the UFC. He left, went over to Bellator, absolutely dominated everybody that they put in front of him. And for it to end the way it did was so disheartening because I thought Anderson deserved to take home that title because Vadim Nemkov did not look like Vadim Nemkov. Corey Anderson might have just looked that much better. Cole, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it was pretty clear who the better fighter was.
Yeah.
Anderson won every second of the fight. He easily won that fight. He was in control, and he was on his way to being the champ. And I think it was like there was like 15 seconds left or 10 seconds left, and then it would have went to decision. That sucks so bad.
Well, and
Oh,
the tough part for him, like he said, it wasn't even about the money. It was the fact that he had done something that everybody said he couldn't do, and that was become a world champion. And honestly, I have seen Vadim Nemkov knock the heads off of fucking everybody in that division. And I was like, wow, he's getting worked in like
mhm.
every sense of it. Striking was better for Anderson. The takedowns were easy as hell, it seemed like, for Anderson.
Easy.
The ground control, man, even pinning him against the fence as much as he did, it was just so much easier. And Anderson looked like he could have done that for 8 or 9 rounds. And Nemkov would have lost 9 rounds. Like, it was just that decisive. And I got to be part of the media behind the scenes. And I asked Corey, leading up to this, was there ever a fighter that realistically, he has fought that would be the equivalent to a Vadim Nemkov? Because Nemkov's been untouchable in Bellator. And he said, honestly, man, there's no one like Vadim Nemkov out there. So the fact that Anderson already knew that going into the fight and proceeded to pull off one of the best, I think, beatdowns I've seen in Bellator history, I'm just so upset because he's, like you said, 15 seconds away from not only becoming the champion, but winning $1 million in the Grand Prix tournament as well. Like, they had the check. He said the most disheartening thing is that he went backstage and the check was already made out to Corey Anderson. He's like, that was a gut punch. So, I mean, I think the stoppage was bullshit. I honestly do. I think for Nemkov, obviously, he doesn't think it's bullshit. He's still the champ, and it's so unfortunate because I think, yeah, like I said, Corey Anderson, that is the best performance I've ever seen Corey Anderson have, UFC and or Bellator, and he deserved that strap without a doubt. So, Corey, hold your head up high. You know there's going to be a rematch on this, man. And Scott Coker, the organizer of Bellator and owner, said, "Yeah, we're running this one back." So you know that it's going to be happening. And Cole, for all prediction purposes, this happens. I'm going to give it to Anderson. You going to run with him again?
I mean, it's hard to argue. I watched a pretty clear victory there. But it'll be like Nemkov's the man too, so it'll be interesting to see what adjustments he makes. Because now it's like, he was literally taken down at will and held on the ground. So it's like, he kind of has like a blueprint to work with at least.
For sure.
So it'll be interesting.
Now. He can go back to his training camp because we're probably going to get another 8 weeks, and he's going to, or at least 8 to 10 weeks, I think. It'll probably be in the next 2-3 months. We'll see that fight happen. And honestly, he's going to look at that with his coaches and be like, holy shit, I got beat up. And I got dominated. So how do I change this? I thought his angling as a fighter was terrible. And normally Nemkov, if you watch that last fight against Phil Davis, Phil Davis is such a big body. And it just like he held Davis to nothing. And Davis couldn't shoot. And we all know Davis in his wrestling is unbelievable. So Nemkov stood big, but this was just a brutal performance. But nonetheless, we're going to get a repeat on this one, and I can't wait for that. Getting back into it, man. Let's get into the boxing world. Whoo-wee! 90,000 fucking people were electric at this card at Wembley Stadium. Of course, I'm talking about Tyson Fury, the last fight, or so we think. We'll get into that later on. Tyson Fury versus Dillian White. Wowzers. Fucking Tyson Fury, man. As advertised, said, no one can beat me. And going into the camp, he wasn't on social media. He didn't brag about anything. He just went to work, boots to asses, essentially, and was like, I am going to prove to the world why I am that much better than Dillian White. And oh my God, what a beatdown. What a finish. Cole, give me it.
It was easy. It was an easy night for Fury. He controlled the whole fight. Just kept the grinded when he needed. Like it was such an easy performance, and it was honestly, it was weird to see White so like hesitant. You know, he's a tough guy, you know, and he hits hard. He knocks people out. But he was frustrated. Like clearly, you could see it that he was frustrated. So you know, Fury went out there. He did what he always does, and had an easy night. Put him down, and he stayed down. You know, it was that uppercut was so clean, so clean. It was that was awesome. It was really cool to see, and it's unfortunate that he doesn't like. He could fight like Usyk. That's what he should do. You know.
God, man, that's
like
that's the fight I've been praying for.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Because like even for like that, you know, like that GOAT status, like I don't think he's done enough to earn it. You know, if he had like, he could have like 2-3 more solid fights on there, and then he'd be in the running. But if he ends now, I don't think it's enough, to be honest.
I think he's the greatest heavyweight. I think he's the greatest heavyweight of all time, but he's not the GOAT of boxing. I mean, that title belongs to probably two men. And I think we could say that, you know, in the past era, Muhammad Ali, obviously. We could even go Mike Tyson as the greatest light heavyweight of all time. You could also say Floyd Mayweather might be the best fucking boxer of all goddamn time, period. So
I would give all three of those to Floyd. Floyd Mayweather or Floyd Mayweather or Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, that's totally true. I mean, you look at, you know, Tyson Fury's resume, and it is absolutely incredible. But I do think there's some asterisks there. Again, Anthony Joshua. Again, asterisk. Usyk. Asterisk. Ngannou. Right? Like, I mean, and that Ngannou thing was crazy. So we'll get into that because I think that was the craziest thing. It looked like Tyson Fury had no fucking idea who the hell he was until he's like, oh shit, that's that big bitch from the UFC. He was, you know, he's sitting there in the interview and he's telling everybody that, you know, this is the end of Tyson Fury. I'm done. I made all the money I need to make, you know, and this is my white horse. I'm riding out in Wembley with 90 fucking thousand people. I just had a walk-in entrance that took 20 minutes to get to the ring. I mean, it's just, I think that was his, like, he wanted to end it at home type thing. And I totally understand it. But then, yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting because all of a sudden Francis Ngannou comes into the fold. New hairstyle for Francis, the completely bald Francis Ngannou. Walks into the ring after all is said and done during the interview, and Francis goes, no, I am going to take you on to prove who the baddest motherfucker is in the heavyweight division. And that was his wording. And I'm like, huh, first and foremost, where's Dana? Secondly, dude, you're still under contract. And C, this is going to happen. I just know it, man. As much as you and I want to see an actual fight with Usyk and or Anthony Joshua, that's just not going to happen because we know that the money train's going to run deep on this. It's the McGregor and Mayweather effect, and we're going to see it. There's going to be a tour. There's going to be bullshit. And at the end of the day, Tyson Fury is going to beat the absolute piss out of Francis Ngannou. Now, has Tyson Fury ever faced somebody with maybe perhaps the power of a Francis Ngannou? No. I don't think that anybody in the world can perceive what power Francis Ngannou has. But Tyson Fury can angle the shit out of you. His footwork is so elusive. And look what he did to Dillian White. I mean, like you just said, White is a knockout artist. And honest to God, the way that he angled him, it's just, of course, White being the southpaw, every time he countered, he would move in. He would move in. He would get in closer, give him nothing to throw. And then, boom, like you said, that uppercut was absolutely fucking crisp and perfect. So, I mean, I don't know. I know that we're going to see Ngannou and Fury. It's just a matter of time and when, because Francis, in case you guys don't know, Francis is still resting in MCL surgery. And he's, you know, vacay status right now. He's a champ, but he also has had a lot of contract negotiation disputes with Dana White and what he thinks he should be paid. He's kind of the first heavyweight to speak about it in a long time. So, I mean, I'm sure at the end of the day, money aside, this fight will happen when both arrested. Like Francis said in the ring, he said it's probably going to be 9 to 10 months before I'm back. And I'm like, man, that's a long time for Fury to take off. What do you think?
but he said 10 months for MMA,
Yeah.
but he would take that boxing match tomorrow.
Yeah, which I don't know, man. You still need an MCL for boxing, so I mean, you do.
I'm not gonna miss it if it happens. Like that'd be huge. I'd love to see that. I love it. I love that all. I don't know. And as for like power, like I mean, Wilder's number 2, I think for punching power.
True.
If not, like, and he freaking Undertakered his way out of that one, you know. So you know, like he's fought some big punchers, and then taking it on the chin. So I think Wilder dropped him in their series of matches. He got dropped 3 times by Wilder, and he got up every time. So
yeah, I mean, Francis just possesses some fucking banana power, man. And obviously, if you don't believe me, watch Stipe's head bounce off the canvas the way it did. It just, after that, I was like, not even that, even the Overeem uppercut. I'm like, holy shit,
yeah.
Overeem's spirit left his body. Like, he flew back 10 feet. I'm like, wow. Like, did I just watch that? And I mean, I remember, shout out to our former co-host, Sully. He and I were watching together. And I went, what? Like, that's not even possible for somebody to fly back that quick. But we know that there's going to be a ton of money thrown at it. I'm guessing that Francis gets $100 million off that fight. I'm assuming Tyson Fury and his camp will make 250, 300 minimal if they do that kind of circuit. Kind of like McGregor Promotions, it'll be Nagano Promotions with the UFC sponsorship behind him. Dana White will be a huge part of it, obviously. And I'm assuming Eddie Hearn will be a huge part of the Fury part as well, because they are bromigos in that Showtime partnership with the UFC. Like, it prints money. There's not one person in the world that doesn't watch that fight. So we'll probably watch it live together when it happens. Another boxing event that happened this past weekend, unbelievable fight. One of probably the best boxing matches, male or female, that I have ever watched, in all of the hype was worth it. Amanda Serrano taking on the legendary Katie Taylor. Oh my God, dude. And this was just a brawl for all the second the bell rang. What did you take away from it?
Yeah, it was insane. It was I think, like, if you have any, if anyone has any time, go watch round 5.
Oh my God.
It might be the greatest round in boxing history. It's just like, it's insane. They just stood there and threw for the full round. And I thought Taylor was going to get stopped a couple times. But that fight was amazing. The whole fight was really, really good. I don't know if I agreed with the decision, but you know, it was a close fight. I think it was a draw at best, but I had Serrano up around.
I thought Serrano won in the 12th. Call me crazy, but I thought she did better in the 12th. That won the fight for her.
Right.
I watched it again just to make sure, and I was like, all right, it seems like, and like you said, in that 5th round, man, in the 4th, they were very hesitant. Not that they were like slow or counteracting differently. It's just like when they went into their corners, I think both coaches were like, yo, it's 2-2 right now. Like, somebody got to figure it the fuck out. Go guns blazing. Let's go. And honest to God, I was like, what am I watching? Like, I have never seen, like I said, male and or female, I have never seen heart like that in a round where cardio out the fucking window, hands getting chucked, faces getting bruised and bloodied, man. And then if you thought that was crazy, watch round 12, because it was equally as fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, both girls at the end for the last 20 seconds literally just stood there, head down, fucking chewing on their mouth guard and throwing bombs. And honestly, I have more respect for these two women than I have ever thought possible. And when they announced this matchup, I thought Katie Taylor would walk Amanda Serrano. And I've been watching a ton of Amanda's fights because she's been part of the Triller organization, right? And so she's part of the Paul family, if you will. And Katie Taylor is just the ultimate, you know, she's the champ on the champ on the champ on the champ, man. She's beaten everyone. And honestly, her domination continues. But I do think there has been so many people on social media that agree with me too. Amanda Serrano won the 12th round, and I honestly think that was a difference maker. And Katie Taylor being the champ, like I said earlier in the show, to be the champ, you have to beat the champ. And I think if she would have got the knockdown in 12, I think we'd be talking differently.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could kind of see after the first half, I had Serrano up, but then you kind of saw Katie coming back. She started like moving better, and Serrano kind of slowed down a little bit as well. And then again, like you said, that 12th round, I thought was the deciding factor. But you could kind of tell like how much stronger Serrano was as well. She was way stronger. Her punches, like Taylor did not like them. She was she was not there for a couple rounds. Like honestly, I feel like they're gonna fight again, and they're gonna fight again, and we're gonna find out who the better boxer is by the end of however many fights they have.
That's crazy because both these girls are entering the prime of their careers. I mean, Katie Taylor's only 29 years old. And Amanda Serrano's only 31, so it's not like they're getting any they're in the prime of their careers essentially, especially in boxing. This is when you figure out who the hell you are as a boxer, right? So, I mean, man, I am so excited for them to run it back. I know it's going to happen. It's the money fight, man, and I will be tuned in. And I guarantee where we left off in round 12 is where we start round 1. I guarantee it. It's going to be that crazy. So yeah, that's the week that was, and now we're going to get into our segment called the news. Now, there's a couple of topics that we'll get into because I'm not. There's a lot to talk about today, especially with all the announcements that have been left, right, and center on us. Jake Paul, this is the only reason why I'm putting this out there. Eddie Hearn, fucking one of the best promotional guys in the world, sat down with Ariel Helwani, and as they were going back and forth, Jake Paul got extremely offended when Eddie Hearn told him that he was average. He was an average boxer. Jake Paul said, well, I just beat a 5. And so quick to diagnose the 5-time world champion, he goes, of the UFC. And it was just like, he was so fast on being like, nope, you're not using that card here because it's irrelevant. And it looked like Jake Paul took down to earth. I thought it was fucking hilarious. Eddie Hearn told it how it is. And I'm on side Hearn, man. I love it.
Yeah, and you could see in their conversation, like he wasn't saying it to be mean. He wasn't saying it to
yo,
and like Jake Paul took it so bad. Like he was so offended by it. And Eddie Hearn, he's like, I have like 30 boxers on my roster that are never gonna win a title because they're just average. They're just not at that. But you're just not there. You're not Canelo status. You're not up there. And like he was just so offended by it.
He was so taken back.
But it's like what is Jake Paul thinking? Like we have eyes, like we've watched you box. It's like come on, and like maybe one day like you'll figure something out and you'll become this phenom, but like it ain't today. You're like he said he fights Fury, and he has it 50-50. It's like anyone could win that fight. So like,
well, to be honest with you, after watching Tommy Fury this past weekend, I thought he would steamroll Paul. I just thought Fury came in so like motivated, and his footwork was so fucking good, man.
Right.
And I was like,
yeah, I would. Yeah, I don't see Paul winning that fight either. I wouldn't even give it 50-50. I think he said that to be nice.
Yeah, and if you want to see a pretty fucking hilarious clip, listen to Tommy Fury's post-fight interview that he did where he's just basically calling Jake Paul a bitch for about 2.5 minutes. It's just hilarious. Obviously, that fight was supposed to happen in December of this year or past year, and then Tommy got really sick. So, I mean, and after listening to Tyson explaining what Tommy had, it was like some kind of weird stomach virus that, like, Tommy lost like 40 pounds. And like he couldn't train, he was like throwing up, and just it was like a nasty, nasty infection. And then all of a sudden, like you could see it too, because Tommy looked way faster than his previous fight, and he looked a little bit more agile. Maybe that has to do with the weight loss, or maybe it's just that he was training with his brother the whole fucking time. And both of them just knew how big the stadium was, 90,000 people. Obviously, Tommy was the third fight of the night. So it wasn't like it was packed, but still fighting in front of 60,000 people is pretty goddamn impressive. And he looked great. So give Jake Paul, Tommy Fury. I think that's the way to go. And Eddie Hearn even said it. That's the matchup you need, man. That's the guy that you need to face because, again, he's like, being average is okay, man. It's completely okay. And Jake Paul was so butthurt. It was fucking hilarious. I laughed the entire interview. And Ariel Helwani, constant professional, did his best to not laugh at anything Eddie Hearn was saying because I would have lost my fucking lid. Anyways, other news: Dustin Poirier. He's been on the rampage on Twitter. He wants a fucking Diaz, bro, and he ain't sleeping till he gets it. It seems, though, that one particular Diaz brother is not going to be part of that conversation, as we will get into with a little bit more news. So it looks like Nick might be the guy that faces Diamond Dustin Poirier. Now, that fight, if it does happen, obviously 170. And honestly, Dustin Poirier, as much as it breaks my heart, probably rinses the floor of Nick Diaz.
Man, I don't know. I listened to Jake Shields on the Rogan podcast, and he was talking about Nick's last performance there. And he didn't train for that fight. He didn't train one day for that fight. He wasn't in the gym. He was not training. He did not have a camp. He was in like a real dark place. He was
you could tell.
Right. So he took that fight without training a day. He wasn't in the gym. And did not bad, like for not training a day. So what Jake was saying is like, if he wants to fight again, that he just hopes he does it properly, has a full training camp, and you see the Nick Diaz that was. And if that happens, Nick, he can beat anyone, right?
Yes.
So I don't think going off that last fight is the proper way. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about that fight. Although obviously Poirier is the man. He's all he does is fight the top one or top two guy every time he fights.
Wins, gets title shot, loses.
Yeah, and I love him. So no hate to him either. He's the man. He's obviously one of the greatest fighters in history, and that's a tough fight for Nick, for sure. Yeah,
he's got to come in with a full camp. I couldn't agree with you more. When I heard that, when Jake was talking about that, obviously Jake Shields, one of my favorite fighters growing up, as we all know, and I was listening to it. I was like, man, the craziest part is like he was hitting some connections pretty well, and he boxed really well for a guy who hadn't been in the gym. Like I watched it again. Yeah, he was sloppy. He was out of shape. You could tell that he didn't take it very serious. You could tell at the weigh-ins he wasn't taking it very serious. And that's the thing, too, with the Diaz brothers. With Nate, you know what you're getting. Nate's a fucking constant workhorse. Loves his brother, loves his family, loves the Diaz name, and continues to push forward, even though, he picks his own fights now, and he's not selling anything less for money fights. And that's what he said. I'll fucking fight anybody that Dana thinks is a money guy, and we'll get into that because he's going to right away here. And speaking of guys Dustin Poirier wants to beat the absolute shit out of, the guy who called him out after his last fight, Colby Covington, his tooth has gone viral. Jorge Masvidal obviously has gone in and beat the absolute brakes off of him at a nightclub in Miami. And I think it was, I'm going to be honest with you, I think it was a setup 1,000% from the Nelk boys, if anybody knows who they are. I think it was a fucking inside job because Kobe was out with a guy named Bob Mannery. Now, if anybody doesn't know who Bob Mannery is famous for being he does fictitious, MLB calls. So he's like, holy fuck, that guy just got killed. Like he's a fun commentary guy. And I'm sure people have heard him before. He is absolutely hilarious. He's kind of a stand-up comedian type guy. Used to be a play-by-play guy for radio everywhere. And so anyways, he's created his podcast and he's been having Kobe on, and Kobe went on with the Nelk boys as well, talking about the fight with Masvidal and all this other stuff. But it just seems so weird that when Kobe left supper with Bob Mannery, and then he went over to the nightclub with the Nelk boys because they were doing the podcast afterwards. It just seems so weird that Jorge just knew, because Jorge had done a podcast with the Nelk boys as well. Now, I'm not saying anything's dramatic or there was a setup, but I think there fucking was. I really think there was a guy who sent a text to Jorge in that group and was like, hey, just so you know, Kobe's here. He's in Miami. Here's our location. And so anyways, the mugshot came out. Jorge Masvidal did some damage to Kobe's tooth. Kobe has pressed charges. It is, no matter what, outside of the octagon, that is still assault. I mean, it is still a misdemeanor. He still got arrested for it. He's still going to go to court for it. Kobe's pressed charges against Jorge. This feud couldn't get any uglier as it was, especially with Kobe's fucking absolute domination of Jorge Masvidal. And so now tack another loss on to Jorge Masvidal. What do you think this does for Jorge?
Nothing good. Honestly, what a I don't like that. You know, like, what do you're locked in a cage with another man. You could have done whatever you wanted. And you lost, so you sucker punch him. You know, come on. You know, like, what a bitch move. You know, I don't like any of that at all. And I loved Masvidal, and now I could care less. You know, like, that's I'm not into that at all.
To quote Jorge Masvidal, that's weak shit.
Yeah,
and it was. And honestly, it was. I just don't agree with it. I totally hear you out on that, man. I honestly, you had your chance and you lost 50-46. Like, you were fucking brutal, and you got owned. And own up to that loss and take the L, admit defeat, and move on, man. Like every other fighter in the world has. But for some weird reason, Jorge Masvidal has this weird thing where he thinks he's untouchable, and it's kind of wild, dude. You haven't won a fight since 2019. Like, stop. At this point, stop. Until you win a fight, then you can get back on the badass train. He lost it. The last time he won was the BMF title fight in 2019, which was a disaster. I mean, by all counts of the stretch, it was a farce. It was a joke. Nick Diaz got cut. They stopped it. Or Nate, got cut. They stopped it. It was a piss-poor stoppage, especially because Nate had finally found his stride again, and you're like, oh, boy, here we go. And if you're going to have the title called the baddest motherfucker, if he says he can still go, that's a bad motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I thought the whole purpose of this was. Not a world championship. Who's the baddest motherfucker? And honestly, Jorge didn't really impress me in that fight either, but it is what it is. That's his last win, folks. So go check the record books. I ain't wrong. So anyway, there's some tasty rumors that are actually going around, and I've actually had to make a little cheat sheet because there's so many fucking announcements that have been made in the last little while. Obviously, UFC has their International Fight Week, which is the biggest fight week. It all goes down in Vegas. There's 3 cards. There's a Monday card, a Wednesday card, and, of course, the Saturday card, which is just bananas. And some of the announcements that we have been getting for fights are insane. So let's start with the one that got announced today. Max Holloway taking on Alex Volkanovski 3. This is the matchup. This is the fight that we want for the 145 that everybody has been asking for. Cole, number 3, who wins this?
Oh man, I don't know. That is so. That's the fight. You know, like, they're the 2 best. That's it. 1 and 2, and I don't even know which one's which. You know, that's how close it is. That's how good they are. It's awesome. I'll watch them fight every time they fight. They're the 2 best. Clearly, they dominate everybody. Yeah, like, it's not when they fight people, it's not even close. They manhandle people. They whoop people's asses.
It's not even
then, you know, so yeah, they're clearly the top 2.
The Korean Zombie had a hell of a run, and he literally got beat so fucking bad that he's like, I'll never be champion. He literally said that in the octagon. I will never be champion. That's how good those two guys are, because he knows that even if he would have won that, he would have had to fight Holloway, and Holloway would have beat the absolute piss out of Korean Zombie. So, I mean, this is a matchup. I agree with you fully, man. I cannot wait for this fight. I think it's going to be, it just says fight of the year all over again. The last time these two guys fought, go watch it. If you have never watched it and you want to get in the UFC or get into MMA, that fight will turn you on instantly. I mean, I think the overall combined punches was like 1,000. It was fucking nuts, man. And both guys just took it. At one point, Holloway was pointing at him and like, hey, hit me, bitch. And like, that's Volkanovski. And you're like, what? This guy used to weigh 290 pounds and was a rugby player. Like,
Yeah.
and he's just asking for it. And you're like, oh my God, these guys are just on another world. So I'm looking forward to that one. So that's one of the many announcements that we got for Fight Week. Another one that's going to be awesome, our boy, the Shui. Tai Tuivasa is going to be taking on Cyril Gahn. That one got announced. And honest to God, I'm going to roll with Tuivasa in this one, because I just think with all the shit that's going on behind him, honestly, Cyril got dominated. And I mean absolutely dominated on the ground by Alistair Overeem. I feel like with the big body that Tai has, it's going to be a takedown, a trip takedown. He's going to lay on him, beat the shit out of him, and then come box swinging. Because Cyril's, I don't know, Cyril sucks against strikers or wrestlers. And it's crazy because he's a kickboxer and he's a really good wrestler too. So, I mean, I'm rolling with the Shui. The momentum's there. If he gets beat, I'm going to tell you now, I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't seen what the betting odds are yet, but I think it'll be pretty close.
Yeah, I like him too. I would like to see him win and get a title shot. But man, Cyril Gahn's the real deal. He is. He's good. That's a tough fight. And
World class kickboxer.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I'm with you. I like it. I like him. I like his energy. I like how he comes, what he brings, like he loves to fight, and that's it. I'm here. I'll fight you. Let's go. Let's drink let's drink out of shoes. Like, he's funny. He's awesome. And I think give him a title shot if he wins this, for sure.
It's just crazy, his story. He was literally, 3 fights, or he was 0-3, and he was essentially almost ready to get cut from the UFC. And this run that he's been on, it's just been absolutely incredible. I mean, beating Derek Lewis, I was like, no one had that on their scorecards happening. I mean, when we talked about it, I said, Derek Lewis, that kickboxing in those hands, and now he gets to face another kickboxer with some pretty decent hands. But Cyril, the problem that I have with Cyril is that he doesn't let him go enough. He's got power in those hands. He's elusive. He's quick. He's very fast for a heavyweight, but he lacks that killer instinct. And even against Rosenstruck, when he had that fight against him where he essentially pinned him up against the cage for 3 rounds, it just looked like he didn't have the power. And Rosenstruck wasn't really, upset by anything that he was throwing him. So, I mean, for Cyril, I hope this camp that he puts on a little bit of punching power, if you will, and lets those legs fly, man, because those are tree trunks that he's got on him. If he does and lands on Ty's in a world of trouble. That's a fucking tree trunk coming at you at Mach 10. So that's one interesting matchup that, again, all these fight announcements got named. I'm gonna mention some fighters that were on these secret cards that got released. Alex Gustafson's a name that's been on there. We've seen likes of Paddy Pimblett is going to be on one of these cards as well. So quick turnaround for him. Another one that we saw, and we're going to get into it, Sean O'Malley is going to get his first top 10 opponent. Pedro Munoz is stepping up to the plate. And I think Sean O'Malley is going to have a hard night against Pedro Munoz.
Yeah, that's a test. We'll see. That's awesome. I think that's a perfect matchup. I like that. This is going to be a tough fight for him. So it'll be good. And if it isn't, then the hype is real, right? If it isn't a tough fight. So that's cool. And even with Paddy, I just watched him too he was on the Food Truck Diaries.
Yeah, it was good.
And man, his mindset's solid too. He's like I want to fight more times this year, but I'm not in a rush either. You know, I make more money outside the UFC than fighting. So I'll wait till I get a good contract. You know, if I have to wait it out, whatever. He's freaking 195 or 197 right now.
Yeah, he fights at 55?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking bananas. And it's funny because, like, I mean, he's had this incredible, like, run. It's almost McGregor like. It is. It really, for the like a cage warrior who was also Conor McGregor was a cage warrior. They both come from the same organization. They kind of have the same story, broke as shit, just trying to make it, fighting every day, sacrificing whatever they can. I mean, their stories are eerily similar. But I think Paddy's just way more motivated. Conor got in, got the money, got the success quick, right? Got his titles and shit like that. But for me, I think if you pay Paddy, I really see him sticking around for the foreseeable future. And I really think he's going to be a cornerstone for the UFC, especially marketing-wise. The kid is completely the most marketable piece that I think they have coming up right now. Dude gets tagged and almost gets fucking knocked out in both of his fights and then comes back to life, takes a deep breath, and beats the shit out of his opponents. I'm just like, how in the fuck, man? Because he's been rocked twice where I was like, he is absolutely toast. And I think for him, he's got to work on a couple of things. He's still a little ways away from being a top 10 guy. But fuck, they have something special on their hands with him. That is for sure. Before I get into the 276 card that was announced, there was another huge rumor that was circulating around the heavyweight division. Now, if this is true and this matchup happens, this will be the most watched UFC fight UFC heavyweight fight in history. Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic is a rumored fight that will be happening during that week as well. I'm assuming it'll likely be the Wednesday night headliner. And I am fucking here for it. Give me that matchup. Stipe has wanted it for the last 3 years. Jon Jones has wanted Stipe since he decided he was moving up to heavyweight. Jon Jones seems like all of his shit is kind of behind him now. And I say that loosely because he hasn't had a felony charge in 2 years. So good for him. It seems like he's running AT&T out there, like his camp, American Top Team. He's working with Holly Holm still. He's working with all those people out there in the Jackson camp too. So this is really, really interesting. If this matchup happens, I am probably going to lean with Jon Jones, and I just think he causes Stipe a problem.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. It's hard to vote against him. You know, he gets the job done. Yeah. You know, it's hard to visualize someone losing who's never been dominated. You know, never been.
Honestly.
You know, he's had a couple close fights, but no one's like, you know, put it on him. You've never seen him like in a real tough situation. So it's hard, you know, it's hard to think about that and just kind of how smart he is. And yeah, I think Jon Jones will take that for sure.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that in the little, and all of the fights that were on that thing have been announced so far. So I'm just waiting for, they'll probably make that announcement during the card, I'm assuming, just because of who the caliber of fighters are. I mean, let's face it, Stipe is at this point the greatest UFC heavyweight champ of all time.
Right.
Talk to me when anybody defends the title 5 times and against the fucking murderer's row of people he had to face. Cormier twice, Francis, Overeem. Like, there's no one. There's no one. So he's still my GOAT of the heavyweight division, probably always. Jon Jones is still really young. He's only 33 years old. So the thing is, he still has an opportunity to be that good for the next 7 years. And it seems like he's training correctly. His camp has said, everybody has been saying that he just looks like he's ready for the heavyweight division. I mean, he has had 2 years to prepare for this. So he has probably trimmed, gained, and is probably an absolute wagon now at 245 fucking pounds. Like, I would not want to face him.
And honestly, it's smart of him to take the time and do it properly.
Learn your body.
Walk around at that weight for 2 years, do runs for 2, you know, like get used to that extra weight instead of just moving up and going, and then all of a sudden you're gassed out in your fight because you're not used to carrying that weight. After 2 years, you're used to it. Training with that weight, doing, so to do it that way is interesting. So it's we'll see. I think he's smart.
Pretty awesome clip of him going viral, of him running on the treadmill. Also, people didn't think he was that big, and I was like, holy shit, he's a fucking tank. And he was still running at almost 75 kilometers an hour, which is fucking bananas. And then, so what we got dropped on us today is what I want to talk about just ever so quickly. UFC 276 card got announced today, and we talked about O'Malley and Munoz. So they're going to kick off the card. Then we have an awesome matchup in the bantamweight division with Lauren Murphy taking on Miesha Tate. Now, Lauren Murphy, obviously, we all know, made her a little, went all the way to the title. She got beat. Miesha Tate has come back, has looked good, lost her most recent fight. So these are two girls that are coming off of L's. I think it's going to be a great fucking matchup. I honestly am going to roll with Lauren Murphy in this fight. People might call me crazy in this. I just think she's a better striker. That's the only reason why I'm rolling with her in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me, it's kind of just like a 50-50, It just kind of
It's a pick 'em fight for sure.
Yeah, the style matchup, and Miesha could just play the wrestling game maybe and then grind it out, and like you said, the striking, so yeah, I think it's going to be a competitive matchup, and it'll be a good. That's a good fight for both of them. It's a perfect matchup.
Yeah, I really like the fight, and obviously, whichever girl gets the win, that's probably going to be pretty large for a future title consideration, especially when they're trying to make their way up the ranks. And then we got Sean Strickland, everybody's favorite fucking weirdo, going to be taking on Alex Pereira, who knows a thing or two about the guy who's going to be headlining that fight, because the only L that he's ever taken was to Alex Pereira, which is crazy. Of course, Israel Adesanya will be taking on Jared Cannonier, the matchup that I've been clamoring for a very long time. Jared Cannonier is a fucking dog, man. The kid works. He is such a relentless force, even if he's getting tagged, man. And just watching him and how his career has changed from being a heavyweight, dropping down, and it just looks so natural for him to be there. Man, I'm excited about this matchup, but the co-main event, we'll get into the heavyweight. We'll get into the Izzy matchup, but we're going to go into the co-main because I said earlier the Diaz brothers only take money fights, and a very quick turnaround for Khamzat Chimaev taking on Nate Diaz. That is your co-main event for UFC 276. I honestly have no fucking idea what's going on with that matchup, but I am here for it. I am here for the new school Khamzat fans, that some of you who are just starting to watch MMA are really behind his hype wagon, and how could you not be? And then you got us old heads who have been watching the Diaz bros for a long goddamn time. And we're like, all right, old school, new school, let's bang. Who do you think pulls this off, man? Because I got fucking no idea how this one turns out.
Yeah, that's a tough fight. Brian, I think I know exactly what's going on. Nate Diaz is shitting on the UFC, shitting on Dana White. He wants out. Dana's like, all right, I'm gonna destroy you before you leave, give you this animal. But on the other hand of that, it's like Nate Diaz is like the grind master. So like if he can weather the storm of that second round, Khamzat was tired. He was so tired in that third round. Ooh. So Nate Diaz isn't getting tired. So if he can come back 3, 4, 5, freaking win, peace out, and put a halt on the hype train as he's going out, how sick would that be? I would love every second of it, because we love Nate, and to go out on top like that, oh man, I would love that.
That's preaching to the choir, folks, because holy shit, if that happens. I mean, I said it on the last podcast with you. I said after that Burns fight, we can derail the hype train just ever so slightly because Khamzat looked terrible. I thought Gilbert Burns, and I rewatched the fight again. Gilbert Burns won that fight. You cannot tell me fucking differently. I still think he won that fight. I thought he was a busier fighter. His counters were better. Khamzat did get the takedown, which I think solidified the win for him more than anything back in the first round, which is crazy. But man, and I agree with you fully. And maybe some of my WWE people will remember this, and this is the perfect way to describe this. But back, I think it was in 2014, CM Punk was on top of the fucking world. And he hated Vince McMahon, right? Hated Vince. And so the matchup at SummerSlam was John Cena, who is the WWE boy, taking on CM Punk for the title. Now, whoever won the title would be the overall champion of the world because both of them had the titles at the time. Well, everybody knew CM Punk was fucking leaving. CM Punk won the match. He has the title, and he blows Vince a kiss. Now, that is what I think is going to happen in this. Nate Diaz is going to beat Khamzat, blow Dana a kiss, say fucking see you later, try to fuck me again, buddy. I'm out.
Definitely. That'd be the greatest. That'd be the greatest.
And you just know that's going to happen. You just got a hunch that that's going to happen. I mean, realistically, even if Nate does lose this fight and he gets thrown to the wolves, like we have explained, obviously comes up being that wolf. It's his resume, man. It really just speaks for itself. It's a shame that he didn't figure out how to punch Leon Edwards maybe a minute 20 earlier in that fight, because I think he would have beat Leon Edwards, which would have been fucking disastrous for Leon Edwards. And again, he's got the opportunity to absolutely make things disastrous for Khamzat. So, man, this could be his last fight in the UFC. I'm here for it. I'm going to be repping the 209 shirt because that's my boy through and through. The Diaz brothers have been, it sucks because when your favorite fans or favorite fighters are retiring and you're just like, oh, I don't want this to happen. And you just know it's happening and it's happening in front of you. So nonetheless, if this is his last fight, man, I'm fucking pumped. When they announced that card, I was like, yes, let's go. And obviously the main matchup, Israel Adesanya taking on Jared Cannonier. I am 1,000% riding with Jared Cannonier. I think Izzy is obviously a fucking problem, man. He's so good. It's just, he's so calculated. He reminds me so much of Anderson Silva in his prime. It's just bananas how good he is. But honestly, if anybody can meet him, Jared Cannonier's big body, his power, and the way that he can control somebody on the ground, I like Cannonier in this fight.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go the other way. I think one of the flaws of Cannonier is how he explodes in, and I think that's a perfect style for Izzy to counter and catch him. Kind of like the Aldo McGregor, so if he can maybe not do that as much and be a little bit more calculated, it might be different. But I know he likes to just explode and kind of charge forward sometimes, and he might get caught if he does that.
Yeah, I know that there have been reports and rumors that Cannonier has been training with Jan Blachowicz. And the only reason why is because his wrestling, right? When we watched Izzy take on Jan sat on him and was a bigger body. And that's exactly what Jared is. Jared is a big body for 185. He is a monster of a human being at 185. Again, this is the same guy who had a 3-0 record in the UFC's heavyweight division before moving down because he was just like, I'm a fat fuck. It's literally what he said to himself. He's like, I just can't do this anymore. And now you look at him and he walks in and you're like, that guy fought at 240? How the fuck is that possible? Because he's just shredded, but he's a big body. So I imagine if he trained with Jan, I'm sure Jan gave him a couple pointers when Izzy's on the ground, what frustrates him, because we saw Izzy had no answer, not a fucking answer for what Blachowicz gave him. So I'm excited to see this fight. This is going to be a money fight. That's the Saturday, July 2nd, which is perfect because we have Canada Day the day before. So it's an international holiday. I'm going to enjoy the long weekend. I'm going to watch fights. It's going to be perfect. Cannot
Mhm.
wait. But yeah, those are some of the rumors. Let's get into part 2. We're going to fly through the section here for you guys. Don't want to keep you too much longer. This is part 2 into the future. We're going to break down UFC 274 for you guys. But of course, this is sponsored by my friend over there, his Boxing Academy and Boxing System, Sandman Boxing System, Saskatoon's premier boxing academy. Check them out. Make sure to go to the courses. They've got some fucking killers up in that place, man. Congrats, by the way. You've got so many good fucking fighters on your guys' roster now. So pretty awesome to see. So let's get into it. I'm just basically going to go into a pick-em mode right now. The world is picking our boy Mike Chandler to win this fight versus Tony Ferguson. This is going to be a fucking fun fight. I don't give a shit who wins this fight, to be honest. I'm just here for a bloodbath, and it's probably what we're going to get. Both guys are going on a little bit of a losing streak here. I think Michael Chandler, for all intents and purposes, this is his last fight in the UFC on his contract. So I think he really needs to win this fight if he wants to stay on. Tony Ferguson probably isn't going to go anywhere, even if he loses this fight. I still think he's got another 2 fights left on his contract after this. So I'm rolling with Chandler, man. Even at minus 410, I do love Tony. Fuck, it's so hard not to put money on Tony at plus 300, get a little money back, but I'm going to roll Chandler.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ferguson, and I'd like to see him get a win. But like you said, I like them both. And if it's a good competitive fight, heck yes. I just don't want to see Ferguson just get battered and be a punching bag again, because that hurts me. That hurts me inside.
It gets hard to watch because Ferguson was such a force, man. And I think the one thing I think he lost a lot of motivation when he never got to face Khabib, and I think that really hurt him a lot, especially because I think he trained so mentally and physically hard for that fight, and it never came to fruition. So I think Tony's obviously we know Tony's probably on his way out. He's 37 years old. I mean, like I said, a couple fights left, and he doesn't owe us fans anything. We fucking love you, Tony, buddy. We absolutely love everything you've ever done for the sport. So I'm going to roll Chandler. You're rolling with Ferguson. I like the split pick on that one. This is a cool matchup, man. I really, really like this. Thug Rose coming in at a minus 275 favorite, taking on, of course, Carla Esparza. Esparza, quietly, and not a lot of people are talking about this, is on a 6-fight win streak. So, I mean, she has beaten Thug Rose before, much earlier in her career, I must add. Much earlier in her career. Actually, the second fight ever in the UFC for Thug Rose. But Carla Esparza does have that one little blimp on Thug Rose's radar. So, you know what, man? This is going to sound crazy to me because I'm the biggest Thug Rose fan. I would not be shocked if Carla Esparza wins this fight.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean to Esparza. I think she's going to grind it out. It's going to be, she's not very exciting, but she grinds, she works, she can get people down, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't think, I mean, like you said, she's on a 6-fight winning streak. She has the same game plan every time, and people can't stop it. I think she's going to win and grind it out.
Don't get me wrong. I still love my Thug. I still love the Thug. Don't get me wrong at all. And honestly, if you're betting at minus 275, there's a really large chance that she does pull off this fight. I mean, she has looked very well with her striking, her precision, her accuracy is so good now. And I think that has a lot to do with her working with her husband and Pat Barry, because Pat, when he was in the heavyweight division, he was such a good kickboxer, but he was just so short in that division at that time that he got ate up. Like, if he was in the heavyweight division now, I think Pat Barry might be decent. Like, most heavyweights now are 6'1", 6'2". Granted, there's some fucking freaks of nature in that division as well. But, I think you would have been a little bit stronger now instead of facing the brutes that are fucking Tim Sylvia and all those guys, man. And a prime Andrei Arlovsky, who keeps winning fights, by the way.
Yeah.
Bananas. It's insane.
Andrew, did you see the post Strickland made about Thug Rose and Pat? Oh, man, that's hilarious.
Oh, it's so good. Apparently, yeah, everybody knows what's going on with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard in the world of things, and Sean Strickland being the weirdest fucking guy in the world just had to put his 2 cents in on those two, which is hilarious. If you don't know, Pat Barry is significantly older than Thug Rose, and everybody gets weirded out by their relationship. But you know what, man? Fucking love is love, and they're 2 grown-ass they're two grown-ass adults who made their own decisions. So, I mean, it is what it is. And obviously, the parents agreed with it because they got married. So it is what it is. It's fucking weird, but it is what it is. And honestly, Pat, I can't say anything bad. I've met Pat Barry before, and he was a pretty decent guy. So, yeah. Anyways, also kicking off on UFC 274, we know this matchup is going to be fireworks. I'm fucking excited as a fan, and you should be too. Charles Oliveira taking on Justin Gaethje. This one for the lightweight strap. And you know what? Justin Gaethje is going to get it fucking done. He is finally not going to be an interim champion. He is going to be a lightweight champion of the world. Charles Oliveira is not good against strikers. Michael Chandler was 7 seconds away from being the UFC champ. And honestly, Justin Gaethje's power, as we saw against Chandler in that slugfest, Gaethje's way stronger. Give me Gaethje at plus 155. I'm taking the money. I'm taking him to upset the favorite, who's been on a fucking murderer's row of wins. Throw it out the window. Justin Gaethje doesn't care about your stats. He is coming at you. His wrestling is fucking elite as well. People sleep on that, and his hands are so precise. So I'm rolling with Gaethje in this. Cole, who do you got?
I agree, Gaethje. I think I don't think Oliveira is going to take him down. I think he's never been taken down except for by Khabib, and I don't think Oliveira has the strength of Khabib. So I think it's going to be. I honestly think it's going to be a beatdown. I think Gaethje's going to walk him down and kick the shit out of him. And if Oliveira surprises me again, that like I'm honestly okay with that too, because mad respect to Oliveira and how much work he's been putting in, and he's been putting in work on the feet. You know, his guard is always up, straight punches. That's how he beat Chandler. You know, Chandler's throwing hooks, Oliveira's throwing straight punches. And so, you know, if he pulls it off, that's awesome. Definitely earned, but I can't see it. I can't see him beating Gaethje, and I think Gaethje's just going to beat him up.
Yeah, I think it's a bad night for Oliveira. I really do. And a lot of people on social media have said differently. I've had a lot of friends and a lot of MMA fans chime in as well, and have said, you know, well, how do you think that, you know, a guy who's won 9 fights in a row is gonna lose? Because losing streaks happen. Fucking people lose. It happens, man. Good on him for winning 9 in a row, but he's never fought Justin Gaethje. And the power that Gaethje presents, ask anybody that fights in the lightweight division. They'll tell you straight up. It's not fun. Habib Nurmagomedov said, I've been punched before, but never that hard. So that tells you the respect and the hands that Justin Gaethje has. And we all know Justin Gaethje, there's only one pace, and that is forward the whole time. And that is going to give Oliveira a ton of fits, man, because he is a guy who also likes to dictate the pace. So, I mean, yeah, this is a great fight card, 274. Make sure you're tuned in Saturday. We're going to have some stuff going on with it during the show. And also, I wanted to get into this because this is going to be a lot of fun for you guys. We talked about it earlier. We made the advertising, and we're going to do some giveaways, baby. So here's how this one's going to work for the Thug Rose t-shirt. We're giving away, yes, a Thug Rose t-shirt. I'll put the picture up on the website. You can check it out on our Facebook, on Twitter. It's already there. It's an awesome shirt, and all you have to do is tell me who is going to win the 2 fights that we have. Of course, we just talked about them, Thug Rose and Carlos Spraza, or Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje. Tell me who you think is going to win. If you correctly guess 2 for 2, your name will go in a draw. I will put you in there, and we'll do a little draw in here to give away that shirt, which is awesome. And then not only that, Cole, my friend, take it away.
Yeah, I'm going to throw in a shirt as well. We just designed, or my wife just designed a new shirt for us. It's kind of a limited edition shirt that we just put out for a real limited time. And we're going to throw one of those in as well. So win, and you'll get it.
2 t-shirts. You heard that right. We're giving away 2 because 2 is better than 1, right? So you're going to get double the trouble with t-shirt of it. So again, if you think you know your UFC better than us, and we're kind of split on 2 fights, not really on 1, but the other one we're kind of split on. It doesn't matter. If you think Thug Rose and Charles Oliveira pull it off as the favorites, and you end up pulling that off, we will put your name in the draw. You will get the announcement in 2 weeks' time. Cole and I will do it live here, of course. We'll recap this event. We'll recap all of the International Fight Week because I think it's still coming in. I just got a Twitter notification that Cody Garbrandt's now in a fight. So that's exciting. he's fighting a nobody. And if he loses this, he's probably toast. With that being said, speaking of toast, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We hope you guys have a great night. We're going to take off, and we got some figuring out to do. I'm going to post both of the T-shirts that you guys could win on our Facebook page. Of course, as always, like, share, comment, follow. You guys have grown us so much in the last little while. It's insane. I started this whole venture, like I said, 2 years ago. I had 100 people on Twitter. I'm now at 1,000, and I had 150 people on Facebook, and we're at now at 550. So thank you so much, everybody, for your support and the constant grind. We're here to grind for you guys. And, I almost forgot this tidbit of information. Next week, or I guess in 2 weeks' time when we do this podcast, I'll have a major announcement for you guys when it comes to Palace Athena Women's Fighting Championship. Boom! There's a little spoiler for you. For myself and Cole, you guys have a fantastic evening. And thanks again for tuning in to the Boomtown Pod, your home for all things MMA.